They just reload with the skill spots, hit the portal a bit at receiver. The defense is nasty. That was Kirk Herbstreit, ESPN's Kirk Herbstreit, voice of college football. He had this to say too, Matt. He said, because Georgia played somebody, I feel like we're back to, okay, there's Georgia, and we're going to go find out who everybody else wants to be invited to play up there with Georgia after week one. So a long way to go. Obviously, a long way to go, no question about that, Matt. But did you take away the same thing as Kirk's view of the world?
Yeah. I mean, Georgia's been really, really good now since 2017. So this is what you expect a Kirby Smart coach Georgia team to look like. Improved offensively in ways, but very good on defense and fast on defense. This team is fast everywhere. They're flying to the football. They're reacting before they're thinking. A lot of these guys know the system now. I mean, they had two inside linebackers, Ryan, C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson, start a lot of games last year towards the end. It looks like both of those guys have made a big step forward as sophomores. Jalen Walker looks like an even improved version of himself. This is year 3 for him. You would expect him to be this type of player. They're very disruptive. They're smart players, and it all goes back to practice. Kirby Smart preaches that over and over. Practice is everything. You have to practice at a high level. That's the standard. And it's translated on the field once again to start the season.
Yeah, and it's big to start the season with a 30-point win over a ranked team. It's what you see the rankings move around yesterday as they came out, and there's a reason why Georgia didn't move down at all, even though they didn't score 60 or 70 or 50 or whatever it is as the other top teams, because they actually beat somebody. And we talked about this a little bit in the offseason, but you learn a little bit more of what you're made of in a big game than in a game against Tennessee Tech. Like if these games were flip-flopped, obviously there are advantages to playing a team like that first. You have a little bit more leeway to figure out your lineups and little things like that. But starting out big like this, especially with a huge season coming, there's going to be a ton of big games. And if they're as good as they've looked and we think they are, they're going to be playing a ton of games after the season when the postseason rolls around. So I think that this is a good thing for their confidence. But with what Kirk is saying, I mean, they do through recruiting in the portal, they bring in the guys, and I don't know that there's a real weakness on this team from what we saw in one game. I mean, not one that's glaring. We'll learn about that a little bit more as they play more good teams. But as they've had pretty much for the most part over the last few years, they've got everything.
Yeah. Hey, let me visit this. So Dabo goes on Tuesday, Wednesday. Kirby goes Monday, Tuesday. Dabo goes Tuesday, Wednesday. And I thought Dabo was great after the game. And then on Tuesday he had this to say, Matt. I wanted to get your view of the world as far as this was concerned. Um, he said this Dabo Swinney, the head coach at Clemson. He said we matched up well. It didn't go our way, but we were physical. We could run. We've got a good team. We've got a bunch of good young talent. It's going to come together. It's going to be fun to watch. Um, they didn't run on Georgia at all. I mean, you think he means like running on the field?
Running on the field. Did he run on the field? I know there's no hill to get down there at Mercedes-Benz
No,
like there
I
is
didn't notice that.
in
If he
Tiger
did,
Town, but I guess they would have matched Georgia's physicality in the first half. They never
yeah,
ran on Georgia, but sure, that they gave Georgia a real first half fight, which was what I think we expected. You know, Georgia gets a feel for the game a little bit, feel for the season, and then second half, the talent and the depth takes over, and it's going to take over in a lot of games. I think Auburn and Tennessee and maybe Kentucky in a couple weeks give Georgia a real tough battle in the first half. But this team is deep for a lot of reasons, and this is year 8 for Kirby Smart now. I mean,
9.
he'll 9. He never says he likes the depth of his team, right? And he said that even before the season. Like we're not deep here, we're not deep there. They're deeper than just about everywhere else in the country at most of the positions on the field. It really is crazy how much their talent and their depth will take over, even like Ryan said, against a top 15 Clemson team. So we'll see what Kentucky brings if they give Georgia any adversity on the road. I still think there's a lot to learn from this team in 2 weeks during that game. But Tennessee Tech is this week, and hope to see a lot of young, fresh faces in there.
Yeah, and you want to see Trevor Etienne in there as well, right? That's the big, not mystery, but the new piece for this week, and seeing what their offense really can be. But even in that running back room, you won't get to see everything until Roger Robinson returns at some point. It looked like you were about to say something, Dean.
I was. I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off, but I think I wanted to say two things. First of all, don't forget I'll be at Red Zone on Friday from 3 to 5. Drop by, say hello. I'm going to be, doing this thing. We're not completely sure, but make sure that you pay attention. I'll be there 3 to 5. Make sure you drop by. Ryan, I want to throw it back to you. I watched some of Kentucky. Matt, you can go after this. I don't see Kentucky really hanging around with Georgia at all. I mean that they did not play great against Southern Miss. It's one game. Ryan, they got Carolina this week. We'll see, but I think Tennessee's offense looked spectacular, which is not newsflash there. But anyway, Ryan, I'm not sure I buy Kentucky gives Georgia a hard time at all.
Yeah, earlier in the season, it's not like they're going up there 2 years ago and it's freezing. And no one can move the ball, and it's just one of those strange games. It's earlier in the year. I think if there's any coaching staff that knows how to exploit Brock Vandagriff's weaknesses, it's Georgia's, right? So I don't know. I just think that from what we saw in week one, I kind of agree with you a little bit about Kentucky. You'd think that they would have put up some more points than they did last week. 31-0's great, but you'd want a little bit more firepower. I did think there were some good moments for Brock Vandagriff, right? And throwing the ball. I thought he made some good throws on the run. He ran around a little bit. Nothing like high school where he's flying by people. It didn't look like that at all. It looked more like DJU running a little bit, maybe a little more graceful than that. But yeah, I don't know. It takes a quarterback that can either pick you apart or can just run all over you to beat Georgia. So I don't know that Kentucky's offense is going to be that in a couple of weeks, but I thought a lot of the teams in the SEC looked pretty impressive. Kentucky was not one of the ones that I had marked down in my head as someone who, I was like, whoa.
And you felt like Kentucky and Florida played pretty well. Matt, I want to get back to what Kirk had to say. Yeah, that was a joke.
Florida played well.
That was a joke. I was just going to see if y'all were going to react. Hey man, we record these at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes the guys are not awake. Matt, let's get back to what Kirk had to say. The defense is just nasty. Both of y'all have the ability to see up top the whole game looking down, whereas for me, I can see on the field if there's any place to go. It didn't look like there was any place to go, but I can't see Malachi Starks and kind of guys backpedaling and then coming forward. What was it like when he's saying the defense is nasty? What does Kirk mean?
I think if you look at it technically, X's and O's standpoint, they're playing sound gap assignment football. Guys are doing their job, which allows a lot of different guys to make plays. It's not just one or two or three guys. Everyone out there is a good football player because they've earned the right to start on Georgia's defense. It means they have improved and they know what they're doing and they can bring it both physically and mentally. And you've got guys who are just playing better and better. And you've seen the growth even from Damon Wilson, who maybe didn't light up the stat sheet, but he was out there making an impact and forcing Cade Klubnik to run somewhere else where someone else tackles him, right? It's just guys doing their job. And they are fast and they are physical. They tackled well. They covered in the back end. KJ Bolden, as a freshman, was really, really impressive in his coverage and his ability to make a big tackle on a 230-pound running back on a big third down early in the game, right? So it's very impressive what they put out on there on the field, Ryan, and it looks like they're only going to get better. I don't see this group taking a step back, but they will play much better offenses.
Yeah, they're all in the right spots. There just weren't many mistakes you saw where, broken play, missed tackle. There just really wasn't much of that at all against Clemson. But the thing that always stands out to me, and it especially did in this game, it's the speed. They've got speed at all the positions. Whenever a play gets to the outside, it feels like there's at least one guy that's just there in the spot before, in this game it was Clemson, before Clemson can break a 5-yard game or get that 4-yard first down that they needed. Whether it was KJ Bolden, CJ Allen made those plays, all the linebackers made those plays. Jalen Walker making sure that Cade Klubnik doesn't escape the pocket on one of those plays. Everyone's in the right spot and everyone is really fast. Malachi Starks can't make that play unless he's super fast and can get to the right exact spot. There's only one spot he can be to make that miraculous interception. KJ Bolden almost made a long interception himself in the first half. I think it was in the first half where he's tracking an overthrown ball by Cade Klubnik. and he was flying over there. He couldn't quite get there. But that's the thing you notice the most. And even with the younger guys, the physicality aspect of it, they're not missing much.
Hey, on the screen right now, y'all can't see it, but I've got a picture of a Clemson Tiger. I can't tell who that is. It's not Klubnik. It's a receiver. But here's who's tackling him. It's Smile Munden. I'm just going Smile Munden, Chaz Chambliss, Williams, and C.J. Allen. They're all there. Oh, and Dan Williams. Dan Jackson is there as well. They were swarming constantly the other day, and it's like there was just kind of nowhere for those guys to go from Clemson. And that's why I ask, were they that fast? Were they that sudden? Or two, and I'll throw it back to Matt. Or was Clemson just not explosive? I mean, I think a lot of it was Clemson's not explosive.
Yeah, a lot of it is. But I do think that when you've got so many guys who understand their role and are all on the same page, they know exactly where they need to be. And that kind of makes it seem like they're faster than they are because, again, the ball snapped. They're not thinking of where they want to go. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're on top of it. So the instincts, I think, make it seem like they are a little quicker or a little faster than other players maybe across the country who are, if you lined them up and ran, they're just as fast, right? But the way they react and the instincts, and it all goes back to the scheme. The coaches implement the scheme, and these kids are getting it, and they're recruiting smart kids who understand it. Again, the middle linebackers, the ones who are supposed to make sure everyone is where they need to be. They're young guys, and they're just in their second year, and they're only going to get better. So the linebacker play is really important, and they're playing tremendous, Ryan, at linebacker right now.
Yeah, it's one of their deepest spots. I like what you said about they just know where to go. But I think at the end of the day, Clemson got outmanned, right? They're just not as good as Georgia. They're not the athletes that Georgia does. It will look different when they play a Texas and Alabama and Ole Miss, those teams that can really score. Clemson, with Cade Klubnik, has not been a team that can really score. So, I mean, they were outmatched in this one, and there's going to be missed tackles against some of these SEC programs, and there's going to be misassignments. So it's not going to be perfect moving forward, I think, but it showed you the gap, right? If you're doing everything you can recruiting wise, everything you can transfer portal, the players are just that much better. Was there a single player on I mean, obviously there were players on Clemson, and we talked about this on the original riding home after the game. A Barrett Carter could start on Georgia. There's some guys on Clemson that could start on Georgia. Would Barrett Carter
start at Georgia for sure?
He would play.
He would be out there like Raylan Wilson is at least.
I think number 5 for Clemson, the defensive lineman. What's his name? Peter?
I think he's number 11.
Oh, okay.
Peter.
He'd start. And
the K-Part kid I thought was the best one they had or something like that. But yeah, go ahead.
He'd start. I want to bring your attention to this photo real quick. This is Michael Williams before he got hurt. Second Cade Klubnik. I didn't mind this play by Clemson. I think they should get Klubnik out more often. He's very athletic. I do want to draw the attention to the bottom of the screen, the right-hand side. Now, you see Klubnik on the ground. That's not what I'm talking about. Can you see Bro in the background here? Those are Tiger socks that he has on, a photographer. Those orange socks, I'm putting my mouse around them. Those are actually striped Tiger socks. They're orange socks with purple Tiger stripes. So that's what it's like on the sideline sometimes. Not all the time, y'all, as you know. But there are some I don't know, sometimes. Here's one image real quick too of KJ Bolden was super hyped after Jalen Walker did something. That's the other thing, Ryan. These guys, if there's not one player, it's another and another and another. Like KJ Bolden's good, right? Like, but you don't even think about KJ Bolden when you talk about Georgia's defense.
No, and that's
do you think about Jalen Walker? I mean, like you should. But
a lot of people didn't know who Jalen Walker is.
Exactly.
And he may end up being their sack leader, and he may end up being a first-round pick in next year's draft. But those images, you're showing some images. The amount of photos that we get on defense when you're on the field or from up top of just like 6 dudes, 4 dudes, 3 dudes smushing a defender. We get at least a few of them every single game.
Yeah, I mean, here's one of Dan Jackson, C.J. Allen, and I think that's Malachi back there. Yes, Malachi back there. This poor tight end, and the tight end was pretty good, by the way.
That one-handed grab was nice.
That one-handed grab, and that's what it took y'all to score against these guys was a late hit, which should not have happened, and a very nice catch, and they got a field goal out of it. Like, here's the other thing too. I'll stop with my rant. These teams, it doesn't matter who you're talking about, they're going to score. I mean, it's too hard to prevent for lack of a better term, a professional sports organization from scoring. Like, Clemson is a legitimate, there's nobody Georgia plays that shouldn't score points. But it was really hard for them to score. They only had 50-something plays. It was really a slow-down game. So I thought it was – I just – after a while, I don't know what to say about it. But I just wanted to get Matt and Ryan's perspective about what Kirk Herbstreit had to say about the speed. What do you – I mean, how is Kentucky going to deal with that, Matt?
Well, I think they'll deal just fine against South Carolina. We can talk about that in just a minute. But against Georgia,
Georgia, yeah.
No, it's not going to be pretty.
Okay. All right. Hey, thanks for watching. Red Zone's Friday at 3 to 5. Thanks for watching.